Welcome to another episode of Game Stunt. In this episode, we will make a comparison of weapons in Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise. Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise are two popular action role-playing games developed and published by Capcom. Both games feature 14 types of weapons that players can use to hunt and slay various monsters in different environments. Each weapon has its own strengths, weaknesses, and playstyles. And some weapons have been changed or improved from World to Rise. In this article, we will compare and contrast the weapons in both games, and also mention the preferences of Podgy and Gamer Tom, who love both games. Finally, we will briefly discuss Monster Hunter Wilds, the upcoming game that is expected to release in 2025, and what weapons it might contain. The 14 weapons in both games are Great Sword, a heavy sword that can deal massive damage with charged attacks but has slow mobility and requires good timing. Longsword, a long and elegant sword that can build up a gauge with successive attacks and unleash powerful slashes with special moves. Sword and Shield, a versatile weapon that can slash, bash, and guard and also use items without sheathing. Dual Blades, a pair of blades that can unleash fast and furious combos and enter a demon mode that enhances their speed and power. Hammer, a blunt weapon that can smash monster heads and cause stun damage but has a short reach and no guard. Hunting Horn, a musical weapon that can buff allies with melodies and also deal blunt damage with improved attacks. Lance, a defensive weapon that can poke monsters with precise thrusts and also block incoming attacks with a sturdy shield. Gun Lance, a hybrid weapon that can stab monsters with a lance and also fire explosive shells with a gun. Switch Axe, a transforming weapon that can switch between an axe mode that has a longer reach and a sword mode that has higher damage. Charge Blade, a complex weapon that can switch between a sword and shield mode that can charge energy and a powerful axe mode that can unleash it. Insect Glaive, a nimble weapon that can use a kinsect to extract buffs from monsters and also vault and perform aerial attacks. Bow, a ranged weapon that can shoot arrows with different coatings and charge levels and also perform special shots and dodges. Light Bowgun, a light and agile ranged weapon that can fire various types of ammo with different effects and also place mines and reload quickly. Heavy Bowgun, a heavy and powerful ranged weapon that can fire more ammo types than the light bowgun, and also use a special scope and a wyvern heart or wyvern snipe mode. The differences between World and Rise weapons. The Great Sword can now use the wire bug to perform a plunging thrust that can lead to a powerful, true charge slash. It can also use a power sheath that increases the damage of the next attack. The long sword can now use the wire bug to perform a soaring kick that can lead to a helmbreaker or a spirit helmbreaker. It can also use a special sheath that allows for faster counters. The sword and shield can now use the wire bug to perform a falling bash that can mount monsters. It can also use a perfect rush that can combo into a powerful slash. The dual blades can now use the wire bug to perform a piercing bind that attaches a blade to the monster and deals damage over time. It can also use a demon flight that can combo into a spinning blade attack. The hammer can now use the wire bug to perform an impact crater that can deal multiple hits to the monster's head. It can also use a charge switch that can store energy and power up the charge attacks. The hunting horn has been revamped to perform melodies automatically with each attack, and also use the wire bug to perform a slide beat that can change the active melody. It can also use an infernal melody that can boost the attack and stun power of the hunting horn. The lance can now use the wire bug to perform a twin vines that can pull the hunter towards the monster and guard at the same time. It can also use an anchor rage that can increase the counter thrust damage after guarding an attack. The gunlance can now use the wire bug to perform a hail cutter that can reload all shells and reduce the wormstake cooldown. It can also use a guard edge that can counter with a shell or a wormstake after guarding an attack. The Switch Axe can now use the wire bug to perform a switch charger that can charge the sword mode faster. It can also use a zero-sum discharge that can attach to the monster and deal continuous damage. The Charge Blade can now use the wire bug to perform a morphing advance that can switch from sword to axe mode while guarding. It can also use an axe hopper that can store energy in the shield and power up the axe mode. The Insect Glaive can now use the wire bug to perform a recall kinsect that can retrieve the kinsect and heal the hunter. It can also use a diving wyvern that can dive towards the ground and deal damage. The bow can now use the wire bug to perform a focus shot that can recover stamina and increase the charge level. It can also use a charging sidestep that can charge the bow while dodging. The light bowgun can now use the wire bug to perform a fanning vault that can fire multiple shots from mid-air. It can also use a silkbind glide that can move forward and fire a powerful shot. The heavy bogan can now use the wire bug to perform a free silkbind glide that can move in any direction and fire a shot that can stun monsters. It can also use a counter shot that can guard and counterattack with a large blast. Personal preferences of Paji and Gamer Tom. Paji started with the insect glaive, a nimble weapon that can use a kinsect to extract buffs from monsters, and also vault and perform aerial attacks. He liked the mobility and versatility of the insect glaive, and enjoyed mounting and slashing monsters from above. However, he gradually explored and tested almost every weapon in both games, and found that he liked some of them more than others. He especially liked the hunting horn, a musical weapon that can buff allies with melodies, and also deal blunt damage with improved attacks. He found that the hunting horn was more fun and effective in Rise, thanks to the revamped melody system and the infernal melody skill. He also liked the switch axe, a transforming weapon that can switch between an axe mode that has a longer reach and a sword mode that has higher damage. He found that the switch axe was more powerful and satisfying in Rise, thanks to the switch charger and the zero-sum discharge skills. Gamer Tom started with the light bowgun, a light and agile ranged weapon that can fire various types of ammo with different effects and also place mines and reload quickly. He liked the flexibility and utility of the light bowgun and enjoyed shooting and exploding monsters from a distance. However, he soon switched to the dual blades, a pair of blades that can unleash fast and furious combos, and enter a demon mode that enhances their speed and power. He liked the speed and intensity of the dual blades and enjoyed slashing and dicing monsters with ease. He found that the dual blades were his main weapon in both games, and he rarely used any other weapon. He tested all the weapons in both games and also liked the hunting horn, but he always went back to his old and faithful dual blades. He found that the dual blades were more awesome and fun in Rise, thanks to the piercing bind and the demon flight skills. Monster Hunter Wilds is the upcoming game that is expected to release in 2025. It is said to be a new and innovative entry in the Monster Hunter series, with a larger and more dynamic open world, more diverse and realistic ecosystems, and more immersive and interactive gameplay. Not much is known about the weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds, but we can speculate based on the previous games and the available information. It is likely that Monster Hunter Wilds will retain the 14 weapons from World and Rise, as they are the core and staple of the series. However, it is also possible that Monster Hunter Wilds will introduce some new weapons or bring back some old weapons from the older games. For example, some fans have been hoping for the return of the Tonfa, a pair of blunt weapons that can perform acrobatic and aerial attacks, and the Magnet Spike, a magnetic weapon that can attract and repel monsters and objects. Some fans have also been suggesting some new weapons, such as the Whip, a flexible weapon that can lash and entangle monsters. That were all 14 weapons, their differences in both games, and some speculation on the upcoming game in the series. I want to thank you all for watching, liking and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.